everyone. Has everybody got a seat and a glass of wine?
Yes.
I hope you've helped yourself to some snacks, and we can begin. So I'd like to introduce myself. As you know, I'm Jill, I'm Sam's daughter, but you may not be familiar with my sister, Raina.
Who gets hidden away.
She gets hidden away
In Hornsey.
In Hornsey. So we thought we'd just start the evening and share with you the speech that we gave at Dad's party, which we've actually had a number of parties. We had a party for Dad on his birthday, which was on June the 4th, and then we had a big family party here on the Sunday with about 50 people. It was a very joyous occasion. And then we're very happy to see everybody here tonight for Dad's little talk. So we thought we'd just share with you the speech that we wrote, which is full of wisdom, and we hope you enjoy it.
Samuel Hyman Isaac Shrensky, a regal name for a man who has just received a card from a king.
Dad, you have been an influential presence throughout our lives, a man of many parts and of many words. Many, many words. A father who has given both of us enormous amounts of love and laughter, and of course plenty of advice, some of which we may actually have taken.
An eternal optimist, we feel it necessary to point out that your optimism has at times bordered close to the insane. But there's no doubt that this, coupled with the determination to forge ahead, no matter what the world has thrown at you, has set an example for both of us to follow. And for that, we thank you.
Thank you. We have indeed many things to thank you for.
Supporting us through difficult times,
Nice holidays abroad,
visits to museums, art galleries, antique shows and country houses from an early age,
fixing, mending and repairing, putting furniture together, putting up shelves,
taking down shelves,
schlepping boxes up and down numerous flights of stairs when we moved house,
the skills to deliver excellent speeches. The list is long, and so too your life has been long.
100 years. 100 years, and a perfect example of all that scientific research says is needed if you want to live a good life up to this age.
You exercise every day, eat a balanced diet, socialise daily, as most of you will know, take an interest in the world around you, have a long and happy marriage, and doting children and grandchildren.
But science, we think there are a few more contributing and significant factors the researchers seem to have missed. Here are our observations of what really works, and let this be a lesson to us all. Number one, self-belief.
Make endless phone calls and write letters to customer services. John Lewis, BT, various banks, local authorities. Tell each unsuspecting agent your life story. Get not only what you want, but also some extras. At the end of these interactions, you feel 100 years younger. Number two, optimism.
Always travel on the top of the bus and trust the bus driver will wait till you are safely upstairs or safely coming downstairs before moving on. Now, this is absolutely true. Dad went on the 134 the other day to Camden. He went on the top of the bus, and here he is with us today. Number three, engage positively with professionals.
Get free dental treatment for 25 years because you have charmed your dentist from the moment you first met him. Not only will he be your best friend, but you will also retain all of your own teeth. Number four, have an eye for a bargain.
Never miss a good Sainsbury's wine deal. Schlep 16 bottles home on your own in a shopping trolley, no matter the weather, in rain, snow or ice, at the age of 99. Proof is that the bottles at the back of the room were schlepped home in a trolley a few weeks ago. Number 5, Stay in touch with what's going on locally.
Regularly visit TK Maxx in Wood Green and find the best coat at rock bottom prices, out of season and in a muddy brown colour. Then take it to the local tailor, who then becomes your best friend after the dentist. Number 6, take an interest.
Take an interest in the mundane, in the profound, or equally, take no interest at all if you don't feel like it. Number 7, ignore sensible advice.
Keep driving until you are 95. Don't wear hearing aids. Number 8, look to the future.
Tell everybody you are 100 years old when you are 99. I'm sure this resonates with many of you that have met Dad over the past year on his day. And number 9, and possibly the most important thing of all,
denial. Refuse to recognise that you are old. Congratulations, Dad, and let's all raise a glass to the man in the cemetery.
cheers.
Now this is really well past my bedtime actually. And I brought along a little whistle for learning, for you. Learning. No. Oh, well, listen a minute. This is in case I fall asleep during the speech. And also during the audience falls asleep.
I'll give it to Teresa.
Give a little practice there.
I'll give it to Teresa, just in case.
My parents, my mum and dad, had landed up in the London docks in 1910 with 3 children. They came from a town called Malova, which was a border town between 2 huge military empires in Europe, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire and the Russian Tsarist Empire. And this Malova town was the border crossing. My father described it as being a Wild West town. There were communities from all different parts of Europe living there, crossing over. There were Roman, there were Jews, there were Poles, Russians, and the border kept changing. So he went up to a Prussian general one day, and he said to him, "Excuse me, sir, are we in Prussia or Russia?" And the general said, "I'm pleased to tell you that we are in Prussia." And my father said, "Thank goodness I couldn't stand another Russian winter." His brothers, he had several brothers there who had left in 1900, way before he did. And one went to Mexico, one went to Palestine, one went to Berlin, one went to Poland, and one went to Stoke Newington. The stimulation that pushed him to go was that Sister Ray, was the second child of the family, was kidnapped by Roma. And they had a lot of trouble for that. She was away for about 2 weeks, but was found in the town wandering around. And I think that made Father Wright decide that he'd better leave the town now. And so he landed up in England, I think on his way to America. But Stoke Newington met him, and I don't think he went any further. In 1928, when the younger brother came along, Julius, I was 4, and by that time the family had grown to 5 boys and 3 girls. And we all moved to a place called Goodman's Field. Although why they call it Goodman's Field, I don't know, because there isn't a piece of grass for 20 miles. And it was also called the Tenter Grounds. The Tenter Grounds it was called because the Huguenots had used the land for stretching their fabric, silk fabric, on the hooks and drying the fabric. So there's 4 streets called Tenter Grounds. And then when they left, about 1860, the industrial London had already built 4 streets all round the square. So it was a piece of grass in the middle of this area, and he sold it to a builder who built 3 rows of terrace houses in that area. It was all very near the Tower of London, by the way. The stone's throw from the Tower of London. And the streets were cobblestones. The street, each one had its little white steps that the parents used to clean every day.
Wives used to. The wives used to clean it every day.
Yes, the wives used to clean it. And the houses were built in a strange fact. They were very cleverly built. They were long, they were narrow and deep. When you opened the door, you were met by the stairs. There was a long corridor, a couple of rooms on the right. It led to a long kitchen with a built-in fireplace grate. And beyond that was the scullery. And then the door on the right led to the yard and a coal box and the outside toilet. When the coalman came to deliver the coal, the doors were left open so he could rush through and go straight through the house right to the coal wall and sometimes use the toilet. The industrial area was an amazing thing for a child. All the factories were spilling out onto the streets. You saw welding and woodworking and cranes piling stuff onto the 3rd floor, 4th floor. Sparks were flying all over the place. And one couldn't help be stimulated by what was going on around you. I found it fascinating. And I think I had built in a curiosity because of this constant pressure on you all the time. Our playground was the Tower of London, and we knew the Tower of London like anything. We knew the Traders Gate and the White Tower and the Beefeaters. Just you'd say hello, boys. There was no charge at all. We never went into the Crown Jewels because you had to pay for it. But the White Tower was free. And we also made our own bicycles with the help of the surrounding factories. And it was a very straightforward piece of equipment. There was 2 bits of wood like that. They were held together by bolts and eyelets and a bolt through the middle, and the wheels were made of ball bearings. Wonderful, nice little fast scooter. The trouble was that on the cobblestones, extremely difficult to really enjoy them. And on Sunday morning, when the city was quiet, we all used to make our way to the City of London, go all the way down to the Royal Exchange, round the corner to the Bank of England, give it a wave, past Needle Street, back into Bishopsgate, where the crowds were all pouring out from Petticoat Lane. And the noise and the smells and the environment is just amazing. The end of Petticoat Lane was the JFS, the Jewish Free School. This was founded by the Sephardi Jewry who came to England after Cromwell allowed them in. And their main purpose, as well as educating children, was to educate the children of the parents coming in to be good, strong English gentlemen. And a lot of time was spent on being an English gentleman. We learned the national anthem, we went to Crystal Palace, we had Empire Day, and the whole emphasis was on trying to be a good English boy, especially from Jewish speaking. On the way there was a crossroads at Aldgate where the policeman also knew a bit of Yiddish, and he used to call out a few words, Leifnish, within Don't Run, and Wie geht's, where are you going, as you cross the road. The punishment, by the way, was a thick cane by Mr. Cohen, and Mr. Martin had a very thin one, and he could hit the tips of the fingers. Bad punishment if you got caught in the lavatory smoking, then you were pulled onto the stage of the school and had your bottom smacked by the headmaster. That was nasty. Not many people did that, I'm afraid. And Mr. Judah Belafonte did, and I remember him crying afterwards. Yes. Where are we? How are we going in the year? We're still alive, are we? What's happened is, I wrote this out a few weeks ago, the family have all checked this out, and we've decided we have to knock out some stuff, otherwise you'd be here all night. So I'm missing out bits and pieces here. But later on afterwards, if you want to ask me a question, I'll certainly answer it for you, if anything takes up your interest. I had acne when I was about 15, and the shelter, the bombing was going on, by the way, all the time. Some pieces I left out for you, the bombing, and sleepless nights, and I was working for a factory and sewing the pockets on the forepart of an army greatcoat. They taught you how to do it. Very tricky part on a crossway, and one man was doing it all the time. That was me. So I was rather thin. And my father arranged to go to my sister, who was in Scotland, because her husband was a tailor in Jaeger, and that's where they had a headquarters. He wasn't called up, he had bad eyesight. So I went up there, and the family as I stayed with took me under their shelter, and I learned how to do shooting and fishing and hunting and boxing. It's amazing. I'd never seen one in my whole life, not that I shoot them. And when I came back, the Labour Office found me a wartime job, which was the Islington Metal and Plating Works. It was at the corner of the Angel, and it stood amongst a tremendous amount of bombed areas. There were a lot of rats about, and when we were there, we were making hospital trolleys and also jettison tanks for bombers. The idea of that was that these huge tanks, huge things about this size, used to be strapped underneath the aircraft so they can go out and fly all night with the petrol in them. And that was interesting work. I enjoyed doing that. And then I also did night watching, so you went to work in the morning. It was your duty to do it 3 nights a week. There was a camp bed there. You had your lunch, came back, and then you couldn't sleep very well because the rats were forever knocking off screws and they're being squeaked by the traps that were laid out. So you cope with that anyway. And then what happened is I got called up in March 11th, 1943. My brother took me out to the cinema on about the 4th of March, and on the way back we got to Bethnal Green when there was that terrible accident in the tube station. The tube was not yet working, but the grounds were there, and they were using that for an air raid shelter, and they put new guns in Victoria Park, which they didn't tell anybody about, obviously, and they were practicing with it at 7 o'clock in the evening. People thought it was a raid. Everybody rushed down the centre, somebody fell, and they kept it all this dark, but you can go there and see now 168 people got killed that night, families in Bethnal Green. There's a monument there on the site, corner Bethnal Green Tube Station. So March 11th now, I'm now an Air Force gentleman with a brand new uniform, looking very smart, and I was very tidy-minded in those days, which I still am today. And they were waiting to be, I trained about polishing the buttons, who to salute, when to go to the toilet. And I was sent to North Weald Airport, North Weald Airport, which was just outside Epping. And it was a Norwegian Spitfire ground base. And I just really was waiting for the course to start in Cosford, near Wolverhampton. And one of the jobs that they had for me and a few other youngsters there was a pallbearer, because they were bringing home some of these Spitfire boys were being killed and shot down. They came back to the base and were buried in the local cemetery. I went to visit it recently because you can go there's a museum in North Weald which you can go and see around. Can't go into the airport. You can go into the airport really, it's a small one now, and you can go around the back there. Anyway, they used to go and do that. Now, that was a rather sad business. People were crying. I was about, 18, I didn't like it at all. Very sad. I knew some of the boys, not know them familiarly, but I knew them by the sight, because working in the canteen and so on. And then I'd been sent to Cosford. At last, an education. At last, I'm sitting down in a class where the teacher is strict, I'm having to give reports, having to write answers, and I'm learning how to be an aircraft engineer for the Halifax bomber. It was amazing. And I was very proud of myself because I came out as what they called a first-class engineer. And instead of just having a badge to show that you were an aircraftsman, I had a star on the top. Master aircraftman. In this photograph here, I haven't got it. I must have been taken before I went on my course. So I've got one photograph near with a star and I was first class. And now we get on to the thing. When I've seen my call-up papers, and it had under the name of description of recruit, it had Sallow, so I was called up. Sallow, I had to look it up, S-A-L-L-O-W. You know what that means, folks, Sallow? Yeah. Anybody hands up and know what it means, Sallow? Washed out, well, weak, need, yellow. And also a little line on the right-hand side, do not post. I didn't understand that at the time. Well, I only found it out later on, actually. So when I finished the course, I was going to be sent now to do my work as an aircraft engineer on a Halifax bomber. So the Air Force military thing sent me to the first one was Northolt Aerodrome on the A40. A lot of people know that. And it was a Polish aerodrome, but it wasn't bombers. There was only Spitfires there. But I woke up in the middle of the night, I was sitting there in the middle of the night, and I could hear Polish speaking, and they saw the name Shrensky, and it looked as if I'm a Pole. So I had borscht for breakfast. Cheesecake. But I was only there a couple of days until they said a mistake. And so then how I got this posting went on. I got posted from one point to another. I landed up after that in the New Forest, and I was woken up by the cow mooing outside the tent, and little birds flying around. No Air Force work yet. That was a mistake. And then they sent me to South Wales, the St David's Aerodrome in South Wales. And the commandant said to me, this is terrible, Shrensky. Send me around. I will fix you up where you've got to go to. I will do it for you. Meanwhile, I've got a very good job for you. As you are a qualified engineer, I've got prisoners of war here, Italian prisoners of war. You are just the man for these people because we're looking after the bicycle section. So I went to have a look and I stood at the corner and I could see in the distance about 20 middle-aged men all working away and the thing there, and I went over there and I worked my way into this small community. I didn't know them, I smiled and I said hello, and after a little while they said come eat, and I had my first pizza in 1941. And I used to make them write on the wall in Italian any word that I learned, and the first ones I know, which I can now say professionally, dove la cacciavita. That is, where is the screwdriver? After the war, my brother-in-law and myself went to Italian classes for a couple of years. I learned a bit of Italian. I could almost speak reasonably, not very well. I never knew anything very well. And she was an opera singer for the Royal Opera House, teaching people how to sing. And she used to sing arias. This was the most wonderful class you could ever imagine. This beautiful woman singing arias to myself and my brother-in-law. We almost left my sister for this woman. Yeah. Anyway, what happened now? Where am I? Oh yes. Oh yes. Now I've been eventually. The commander called me and said, Sheriff Shrensky, I've got your home. There's a Halifax bomber place, but I'm afraid it's in a place called Stornoway in the Outer Hebrides. So I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, you go there and you'll find that's where your base will be. So we took off, and it was very difficult to get there. There's the river between England and Scotland is called the Minch, M-I-C-H. It's where the North Sea and the Atlantic Sea meet, and you can't stand up on the boat. Even the ship captain was sick. And when I got there, I was working on his aircraft. It was wonderful. And when I was on, they were very high, very tall, huge monsters. They were built before the Lancaster, which became the favourite of the Air Force bomber squadrons. But these older aircraft were a bit bit more ugly, a bit more less shapy, but they had these things. And when I was working on the trolleys, I'm looking down on the floor underneath the aircraft, and there is the jettison tanks that I was building in Islington. The same jettison tank lying underneath. Never had my mark on it, but I knew I recognised them. So I was tied up with the ex-bomber thing. And also, the commander said after you've serviced the aircraft, like you do an MOT car, go on the airplane. After all, you think the engines are okay, go with it. So there were 3 people, the aircraftman, the engineer and the electrician. We all go, and then they said, here's your parachute. You can't go up without a parachute, but sorry about that, you may have to jump out the plane. And I did it 3 times. They went from Stornoway, which is the top left-hand corner of Scotland out in the Atlantic, down to Glasgow and back again, and they were shooting flares to make sure they weren't recognised as an enemy aircraft going along. And one of the duties was meeting the aircraft when they come in the night. We had a jeep. I learned how to do the jeep. And one day I remember meeting an aircraft coming in late in the middle of the night. The pilot takes off her hat. The pilot took its hat off, and it was a young lady. I felt like giving her a big cuddle. This huge machine there coming down there. How the hell they know it? It's just tremendous. If you're ever astounded by what was going on around you. And the country was beautiful, and very treeless. The smell of peat in the winter, because all they used to cut blocks up. They all had them outside their houses to dry, and they used them for the cold. Wonderful smells and things. Very treeless country. And rains a lot. Anyway, when I was up there now, the officer called me in and he said, are you in need of moral leadership? Every Sunday morning, the parade for Sunday morning, they used to fall out Roman Catholics and Jews. And sometimes there was only 3 of us there, sometimes there were 5, sometimes there was none there, only me. And they felt that the Roman Catholics and the Roman Catholics were getting some sort of moral leadership regarding their religion, but the Jews weren't. So London, the chief rabbi, I don't know who organised that some Jews would come back to London and have a little bashing of being a Jew, staying in the Judaism thing, because you haven't got any tuition. And so he said, are you needing more religion? I said, yes. And we gave me a ticket to go to London, and it was held in Great Portland Street, near the BBC Tower. Anyway, we got there one day, and 2 days later, Rabbi Brodie was the sort of adjutant to the forces, and he came in with 2 army generals, and he said, I can't stay with the course, because I've got to go to Germany with these gentlemen, because the British Army have found a camp called Belsen. He said, I understand it's an awful place, and I won't be here to do the course. So and so and so and so is taking over the course for you. And he went off. And in the evening, there was the news about Belsen on the thing there. That was a shame. When I got back to Stornoway, I had some more news thrown at me. The war in Europe was coming to an end. The Americans were still fighting like mad in Asia. So the British generals and the Army and Air Force decided to transfer a load of Royal Air Force people to the Fleet Air Arm. And I became a sailor a suit of navy blue. And I had training how to be a sailor, right? How to not, by the way, when you're being trained, the camp itself is like a boat. You can't go out of the gate because you fall in the water. And there were bells for knowing the time, 4 bells ring in the middle of the night. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. And that was it. I was a sailor for a little while. And I was having training. One of the bad training was they were taught you about the kamikaze Japanese bombers. And they had photographs and films of what was happening in Asia. And one of the films I remember so clearly was that they showed you the news item that you may have all seen, when the aircraft coming down, they stopped it and it became a cartoon. And he took the man out of the aircraft with his hand, took him out like that, twisted him around, know your enemy. Put him back in the plane, and then it became normal again, and he went straight into the aircraft. So we were all about 20 years of age. Most of them went straight to the toilet after that film. And then what happened, of course, the Americans dropped the atom bomb. So the only sea I saw was Battersea and Chelsea and Margate-on-Sea. But I couldn't swim anyway, so I was rather pleased about that. Right, now what's happening, because I'm at home, I was decided what to do, load of other stories about it, but I got involved in the fashion industry and I had 5 years in there, and it was always very ambitious. And you ladies will know that once you get into that clothing business, all you girls talk about clothes. I know I've got 3 of them, always talking about clothes all the time. And there was a company called Susan Small. They were haute couture, really classy photographs in Vogue. And suddenly there's an advert, production manager wanted it. She said, go for it. She said, go for it. Mind you, do I know you, Teresa, already? That's untrue. I'm sorry, I missed the whole thing out for you. I think because I crossed it out to them. But when I came home, over those 5 years where I'm learning my trade, I met Teresa. What happened was that she had the New Statesman at home, believe it or not, and I had the only upper class stuff, no rubbish and out, no Daily Mails and New Statesman, and there was an international youth club behind Harrods for dance, and she went there and I went there, and they had a dance called the Paul Jones. The men stood in a circle, and the ladies walked round the outside, and the music stopped, they had a dance. And that's where, there she was when the music stopped, wearing a Rona Roy dress, size 14, style 7604. I recognise it. Anyway, we got married, we got engaged almost immediately, and we got married 75 years ago. And she's still a happy lady. She wasn't smiling, you know. Right, where are we? Oh yes, anyway, so I got this job at Susan Small. What happened? I went to see the bar, I went to play for the job, and I went to see this bloke, and when I went into his office, it was set out like a captain's porthole, captain's boat thing, with a porthole and the flag. And I was telling him about my work that I did, and then he asked what I did in the service. I was in the Navy as well as the Navy. Oh, so he forgot all about my work training. He was very keen on talking about the Navy. He was a sailor, ex-captain, and he said, right, got the job. He took me up on Monday morning. I bought myself a white coat and pencils and pen, and he took me on it and set me off. Now, we suddenly moved into a new world. It's very hard to explain. Everything was, well, I used to as a working class man. It was, everything was so beautiful. The cutting rooms and the equipment, and the polished floors. It wasn't like the previous 5 year I was learning my trade. It was really good stuff. And I stayed there 10 years. And I think I became from lower working class to lower middle class during that time. We had holidays abroad. It was quite a success. It was amazing working there. Anyway, what happened after that was that I was going along one day to go to a factory in Sutton, 6 o'clock in the morning, when I reached the North Circuit Road at Henley's Corner, when there was an accident, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, between a milk cart and a lorry, and the whole of the floor was spread out with bottles of white milk, and we were there for 2 or 3 hours. It was a cold winter morning. I decided I'm not going to carry on. I'm now 50, I'm going to try and have an adventure. So I came back, had a word with Teresa, and we decided to go and choose a place to go and move to lead, to go and have an extender. And we chose Israel, mostly because the 2 daughters were working there. There was a brother there. And anyway, it seemed at that time, Israel wasn't in the state that it is today. the Egyptians were pulling out of Sinai, and Gaza was not having what it's got today, my law school. And I went there and I got a job for a company as a quality controller, and one of the many factories was in Gaza and in Khan Yunis, which you all know about, plus El Arish, which was the occupied Sinai, almost as far as the Suez Canal. And I used to drive along there at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, wonderful. Right parallel with the Cairo-Damascus Railway, broken down, of course, trucks lying around, and the camel was somewhere appeared. And I got very friendly to the Arab manager that was working there, and he asked me to get him a car because his wife lived in Gaza, and I managed to do that for him, and it was wonderful. When we pulled out of Sinai Desert, with the Egyptian Israel peace movement there, they pulled out, and he cried because they were all earning a living. Everybody was working on the back of the Israel state at that time. They pulled out, but it was peaceful. I could go into Gaza, leave the car, go and do the job and come back again. Anyway, the company that I'd been working previously here sent a free ticket to come back to London because I'm not boasting about this, because it was just the world was changing, the clothing trade was changing, and I was still doing stuff as it was 15 years ago. And the bloke sent me a free ticket to go out, come to London, and to come back and we'll resettle you in London, which I did. And I worked another 5 years there, and we lived in Palmer's Green, and from Palmer's Green we met up with the Woodside Square, and here we are today, really. The rest of it is me. Now, yes, am I overdue?
Sam, thank you so much for that. Are you prepared to take some questions?
Yes, I want to give you the poetry that made me breathe.
Oh, do you want to do some poetry?
One little poem.
Go on then. Do you want to use a microphone?
No, don't need
All
it.
right then.
I've got to go somewhere, don't go away.
I won't.
Like Gillian said, that I'm always full of self-confidence. I always feel it's up to the individual to believe in themselves. There's a short poem I read about that. It goes like this. To those who know, or say they do, and those who don't, but really do, the consequence of taking care destroys your individual flair. Beware the songs the angel sings, for they are pawns, but you, my friend, are king. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So listen.
Oh, this is your 100th birthday. Come on. 100th birthday card from the king and the
I'm afraid during the last few days I lost the royal tassel. I put my own on today.
Is it actually handwritten?
That's written down. It's just here. Dear Sam, we are pleased to know that you are celebrating your 100th birthday on the 4th of June. This brings our warmest congratulations and heartfelt good wishes on your special occasion. Mr. Charles and Camellia. I'm sorry that I used the second-class stamp. You all know how expensive the coronation was last year. Thank you for winning the war. And do not be ashamed that you spent 4 years cleaning toilets. It certainly helped every effort.
Thank you so much. Have any of you, I'm sure you have, got any questions for Sam? Are you okay there? Give him oh, he's got a drink, okay. Anybody got a question for Sam? Go on then, Carol.
Sam, I think people would like to know about your name. Why your name changed.
Very good, thank you. I left that off. In the family in Newman Street where we're living near the Tower of London, Brother Laser, who was the number 5 in the family structure, decided he wanted to be an author, and he persuaded father to buy him a typewriter. And he actually wrote a book, and it got accepted by Shettle and Windus. And in 1939, they published the book. But before they published it, they sent a letter to him and said, we cannot publish this under this foreign name of Lazarus Shrinsky. So here is a list of names for you to choose from. James Smith, Charles Wall, Burton Winton, and Barnett Sheridan. And so he chose Barnett Sheridan, and that book was published in 1939, unfortunately, just before the war broke out. And it's called King's Soul. And again, it's about the clothing trade, about a man who is an iron presser, a steam presser, and he imagines himself as a boxing manager. But Julius and me and him never changed the name during the war. We all went through Shrinsky. And later on, as the family broke away, some of the older ones changed their names. So we have a Stanton and a Stern and a Shrinsky and so on. One niece in Australia changed the name back to Shrinsky, which is a professor, and it sounds very good to have a foreign name.
Anybody else?
That's how the name came Sheridan.
Another question?
Any more?
Yeah, go on, anyone.
What's your earliest memory?
Earliest
memory. Earliest memory. I think my earliest memory is that we were playing games in Newnham Street, and Gerald Levy was one of the kids we were playing with. Just down the road was the builders building a house, building some work on the building yard, and there was a bucket there and a spade and a ladder, and I went up the ladder and he went down the ladder. I filled the bucket and he filled the bucket, and suddenly there was an awful scream. And there's Gerald with his glasses broken and his eye bleeding. And I ran away like mad and never came out from under the underground for 2 days.
How old were you?
7.
7.
And he appeared there, and he came back home after 2 weeks with a glass eye.
Oh.
I was pleased when he moved away. And I think I saw him in the West End once, and I nearly got run over crossing the road.
Dad,
Yes.
Dad, would you like to tell them about your criminal record?
Yes, please. Your criminal record.
During the period, by the way, which I never mentioned that, the Baker Night Radio was calling out every evening about the Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, Mosley walking down High Street, smashing windows. And that period, my friend and I, Sydney, had come out of the synagogue during Passover week, and we were crossing the corner near where we lived, and Sydney pulled a drawer from a cigarette machine, and it came out a packet of fags. And he said to me, my brother's one. I said, as I do. Before we could say any more, 2 men in private clothes, gotcha, for breaking into the machine, and took us to Lehman Street Police Station. And he said, empty your pockets. Being a Sabbath, we never had any money in us, but thousands and thousands of hazelnuts. Because that was the area during the Passover time, you paid hazelnuts during the street, all sorts of games, knocking down. Everybody had bowls of nut. He said, what's this then? Lehman Street backed onto the Tenter grounds. How they never knew that, I don't know. They never knew it. Anyway, they charged us to go to Tormey Hall Juvenile Court under a man called Basil Henricus. And it was just really an anti-Semitic action, really. The 2 were waiting in that corner, little ghetto of Jewish quarter of London, waiting for a couple of kids to come along. Basil Henricus wanted to know how this thing worked, and he was very meticulous. He wanted a weighing machine. It was packed up. He came back. He weighed up. He said it weighed by weight. I remember taking his handkerchief out, wiping the coins, putting them on the weighing machine, and he sent us home. Sent us home.
Great.
Amazing. So that was my criminal record. I've got a copy of it at home. Any more questions?
Yes,
Sarah?
any more? Yes, come on, Dan.
What did your dad do for a living?
Pardon?
What did your dad do for a
My
living?
dad was my father was a very gentle kind, very religious gentleman. Very religious gentleman. He never, I never heard him raise his voice at all.
It was good at turning out children.
He laid
He was good at turning out children.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, he did all the religious ceremonies in the morning before breakfast. He'd pray, and he went to synagogue regularly. At the end of the street, there was a Jewish home for refugees. He used to go there and help with the synagogue reading. He was very bright. He could read the Torah like a book. And he used to send me to Whitechapel Art Chapel Gallery to get his Yiddish book. There was a whole gallery of Yiddish books on the upstairs Whitechapel Gallery. We used to go there and get a book for him. Shulam Aleichem was the author's name he liked. Very, very nice man, very quiet. I lived with him quite a while because Mother died in 1938. And then we came home one day and he married another lady.
Oh, God.
But a few years later, and we called her the lady in the white coat. Why? Because it was so different to Mother, hard-working woman, strong. And this was a lady with soft, gentle hands from Odessa. So that's another period which wasn't so happy in one's lifestyle. Any more questions, folks? You happy with that lot? Can I go home now?
No, not yet. I'm just intrigued to know, Sam, 104 days, 100 years and 4 days, how old do you feel?
I feel very ill.
Very ill?
No.
You don't.
It's rather strange being 100.
It must
Really, you never think you're going to reach 100. I took a pension policy out in the 50s, ready to be, when I got 65, I thought, why am I wasting all this money? So I packed it up and lost the insurance, so I never took another one out. I thought 75. It's really, nowadays, of course, a lot of old people now, isn't there? We found out how many people got this,
the birthday card.
got their birthday card. There's thousands we checked out. How many was it, Gillian, do you remember?
20 a day.
How many?
We googled it, 20 a day.
20 a day for 100 birthday cards. Wow.
Amazing. So there's a lot of old people about. I try not to speak to them, by the way.
But they're not as special as you, that's for sure.
And I put down, by the way, my old age is, I must tell you this now,
Go on then.
Teresa has never ever bought stuff ready-made in the shopping centre. Never. I don't know where the kitchen is. But she has never bought anything that's not homemade on the table. If we don't have a grapefruit in the morning, if we don't have oranges in the evening, and I think that's part of good healthy living. I've never smoked. Well, by the way, another thing about artwork
Oh, yes.
in the house.
Teresa's
There
artwork.
was artwork in the house, and where it came from, there were 3 large paintings. I remember them well. The Boyhood of Raleigh, Mother and Son, that was the elephant, and Where Did You Last See Your Father?
Yeah.
And they came from cigarette packets that the 2 brothers were smoking. You sent 50 of them away, and they came back as a carton, and they were in the home, the artwork.
Fabulous.
Interesting. Okay.
Anybody else got another question? Oh, yes. Val?
Do you cook? Do you cook?
Do you cook?
I don't know where the kitchen is.
I think
You benefited from a good woman all your life.
we've had a
Very nice.
fabulous
I
evening.
loved Teresa and her family. Her father was a wonderful man on his own. I won't go into father now, but he was a lovely bloke. And his mother and a mother. There's not many people can say that about mother-in-law, is there?
No, that's true. Sam, thank you so much. We've got a very small gift for you because we heard that you in fact would like another rose to put on the other side of Hollyhock's door. And that comes with our love. And a card which I hope everybody here signs. And if you haven't, would you please sign it now? But thank you so much, Sam. That was a magical evening.
Yeah.